Hey folks, what's going on? I hope you're having a wonderful night or day. Today I wanted to bring to you a video that talks about the gold economy and how we're not really able to make guides on how to, kind of get rich quick, especially when using the market. The reason for that is because whenever you talk about this kind of thing, like you say, let's say for example that I tell you 3 days ago that I made about 3,000 gold per bag, like tier 4 bag that I sold. Well, by the time you get to the point to where you're actually able to craft something like that or gather something like that rather and then try to sell it on the market's probably crashed at that point. And there's been a lot of things that have been getting the same results. Like for example, there was a Dragon Glory flower tier 4 that you could get from the Dragon Glory plants that you're able to farm out in the world. And around the first couple of days, it was selling for about 7,000, maybe even 4 to 3,000 in the days leading up to this week actually. And now it's over 400 gold. Like the market crashes on so many things so fast that it's not really possible to tell you exactly what you can make right then and there to earn yourself some money. And also the economy is so vastly different based on the server you're on. Some people might be on underpopulated servers, since you could theoretically just make a character on an underpopulated server, since they're going to do server transfers anyway. And this is something that I kind of worried about, and then continually farm up a bunch of money because of the probably high prices, or just farm up a lot of the resources due to lack of competition. And then once they do allow the server transfers, if there's no restrictions on that, then a bunch of people that are pretty rich in resource or money might start transferring to these higher pop servers, and that might negatively, or depending on how you look at it, potentially positively affect the economy. But I think I'm leaning more on the negative side, if I'm being honest. But one thing that you can do whenever it comes to a definitive way to make money, because by the time, like I said, that you would get up to the point where you'd be able to craft something or gather something that somebody is suggesting to you, more than likely it's already ruined on the market at that point. But when you get to level 60 and leading up to the point before that, we do have a couple methods that will always give you gold no matter what level you are, or no matter how many people are doing it. And those are the territory wars, the invasions, and Outpost Rush specifically. Now for the territory wars and invasions, if you get a win, you get a bigger bonus, and it should also be, if I remember right, determined by your contribution to the effort as well. Depending on how much contribution you put in is how much reward you'll actually get as well. So those factors do play a part, but of course invasions and wars, they're not always happening 24/7. And even when they are, it's not always a guarantee that you'll get in. I mean, we'd only have 50 slots available for each of these pieces of content, and you're not going to be able to do it all the time, especially if you're not a part of that faction, that company, or they don't know you very well. Then you have an even less chance of getting in. But for Outpost Rush, this is the one that I would recommend the most. When you get to level 60, all you need is 32 players queued up for this battleground. And if you don't know what this battleground is, it's a 20v20 battleground that takes place in a separate instance. Faction does not make a difference in there. There is no Marauder, no Covenant, no Syndicate. There are 2 different sides though, and 3 different objectives. The mode itself basically reminds me of like a MOBA or a battleground from another game. You can do this over and over and over again. And like I said, faction does not matter in there, so you can get other people to queue up, like from Syndicate and Covenant if you're Marauder, and they can get in there and play with you too. When you're queued up, it scrambles the teams, but you can queue in there in a group if you want to as well. But yeah, you don't have to worry about getting 32 people from your faction to join up, because then the reason I say 32 is because you can actually start the game when it's at 16 versus 16. You don't necessarily need the full 40, so that makes things a little bit easier. And one thing that was pretty popular to do during the alpha was type in recruitment chat and try to persuade people to queue up for Outpost Rush constantly, because of how good of money it was. You're going to be consistently getting about 400 to 500 gold at least per round. And the rounds themselves will probably last less than 20 to 30 minutes. So that's a pretty good chunk of change when you start going on an hourly basis. So if you're not already starting to advertise and do this on a consistent basis, I highly recommend doing this, because like for the territory wars and invasions, every time you do those, you can get upwards of like, 600, 700 plus gold. And it does seem to scale as you go up in higher levels. But the Outpost Rush is something that you can always do. And you do have to be level 60, as I said before, so keep that in mind. But you are able to queue up for it at any faction NPC in the world. So not just the ones in the northern areas of Great Cleave, because that's where it used to be. That was the only place that you could initially queue up when it was first released. But now you can actually queue up at all faction NPCs around the island. So I highly recommend doing this. Tell people about this, get people involved, start making some money. because by the time you get up to the point of, crafting and gathering, by that point, the markets might already be crashed. There are still some, a few avenues you could try. I mean, like I could tell you how I've heard of people that have been doing jewel crafting since the server came out, and they've already made over about 150 to 200,000 gold. But by the time you get up to jewel crafting, the market might be severely flooded because those people are around like 150 plus in the jewel crafting level. So for you, it might be a pretty hard grind. And then by the time you get there, you know what I mean? So same thing with like armor and weapons, because normally you're able to level up just fine by using the faction gear and drops from like the expeditions and stuff like that, quest lines. You don't necessarily need weapons and armor from crafting until you get to around end game. And then at that point, that's when it becomes more useful, because then you can actually specialize in the perks and attributes and stuff like that you get. But yeah, it'd be the same deal. If you tried to burn up to like 200 weaponsmithing right now, you're gonna get there in last place if you haven't been doing it this whole time. So it wouldn't make sense for me to try to recommend that to you, because we don't have a gear sync. The gear doesn't get destroyed somehow or lost somehow. So eventually we're all gonna reach the point where we're all capped out on gear score and gear in general, and nobody's gonna be really buying anything except the new people coming in when it comes to that stuff. So just keep that in mind. But right now we don't have a PVE based way of doing this kind of thing, because they removed a while back, they removed the guaranteed chance of getting gold through mob farming. Now it's only a chance to get it. But at least with Outpost Rush and these other methods, you have a surefire way for the time being to make money. I'm hoping that they'll add like a surefire way for PVE in the future, but for now this is the options that we have. But like I said, there's still ways to make money through, gathering, crafting, and through the market. It's just that whenever you look at these things, if you're not already in the mix, and if you're not in an underpopulated server, then you might be at a severe disadvantage. So you got to keep that thing in mind. And then also there are a couple exploits that have been making things worse for the market. Like for example, the rawhide thing, where if you bring a bunch of people over to Lodestone Lair located in Monarch's Bluff, or at least beforehand it was working like this, the bears over there were respawning at a really insane fast rate. And same thing with Boar's Home. There was a lot of people gathering up over there and getting a bunch of thick hide. There was also other ones like in Brightwood, but I believe this one was patched. There was actually a cathedral that you could go to in the southern part over at Walsham, however you say that. But there was an ogre in there that you could farm repeatedly, and there was a bunch of people over there farming it for a lot of gear pieces and things like that. There was also a chest that was located on the southern side of Eden Grove in these mines down here that I used to farm on all the time. And apparently there was an infinite respawn. So the people that were actually utilizing it seemingly getting a lot of resources very fast. So there was multiple different things that are also contributing to this kind of thing. There was also a bear that people were farming over in Weaver's Fen that was giving a lot of resources that I had heard about. So there's all these different things that might make it much harder for you to get into the market and start making money when you get to that point. And so far there hasn't really been any like rollbacking or anything like that, like Amazon had said previously that they would do. So it seems like this stuff is just going to stick. So it's just going to be like this for a little while until we get hopefully new money making methods. Like I said, I would wish for a PVE based one, kind of similar to the Outpost Rush, where we can go in and we get a fixed amount of money each time. But with that, folks, that's all I got to say. Hope you have a wonderful night or day. I'll see you next time. Definitely start doing those Outpost Rush if you haven't already, and later.